Today, we're going to dive into a pretty provocative theory about the real rules of power, rules that operate in the shadows, far away from the public eye. And we're looking at this through the analysis of a political strategist we'll just call Professor Valle. We often think about power in terms of elections, popular support, or having a ton of money. But what if the real game, the one that actually matters, is played by a completely different set of rules behind the scenes? Professor Valle argues that true power follows a very specific and often ruthless playbook. At the very heart of this theory is a simple but really powerful idea. The system of power presents every single person who matters with a fundamental choice. It's a binary proposition, just two options, and it dictates their entire future within the game. So, what exactly are these two paths, seduction and coercion? They're the core mechanic of this entire power game. Understanding them is absolutely key to unlocking the rest of the theory. This choice is probably best summed up by that classic question, plata or chumbo, silver or lead? Do you accept the reward or do you face the consequences? It's a stark question, and according to the professor, it's one the system eventually asks everyone it targets. So here's how the two paths work. The first offer is always seduction, the promise of money, influence, a seat at the big table. But, and this is a big but, if that's refused, the system moves to coercion. It uses a target's vulnerabilities, a past mistake, a hidden secret, to create a scandal, ruin them financially, and basically destroy their life. And once your reputation is torched in the media, a quiet correction months later doesn't fix a thing. The damage is done. And here's the real kicker. The professor claims that when faced with this choice, 99% of people eventually yield. The vast majority, as you might guess, choose seduction. They take the silver. The very few who try to resist are then broken by coercion. Okay, so where does this game actually take place? Well, the theory describes a playing field that is completely hidden from public view, one that operates under its own set of laws. In this game, your feelings, your good intentions, your sense of fairness, they are completely irrelevant. It is a cold, calculated process. You can be the most well-intentioned person in the world, but it makes absolutely no difference to the players. So, the crucial point here is that this game is not played on the public stage with rallies and media appearances. It operates in what the theory calls the subterranean world. Public approval is just surface-level noise. The real decisions, the real deals, they happen down here, in the dark. And this gets to the purely transactional nature of the game. There is no room for storytelling or appeals to goodwill. If you have nothing of value to offer, no leverage, no asset, no compromising information, you are not even in the conversation. You'll be politely shown the door. So how does this framework explain the fall of seemingly powerful populist leaders? Well, the theory uses the examples of Donald Trump and Jair Bolsonaro as perfect case studies. The theory suggests both leaders fundamentally misunderstood the game they were in. They mistook all that surface-level strength, the huge rallies, the popular support, their personal wealth, for real subterranean power. They lacked what the professor calls situational awareness to navigate that hidden world where the real power brokers actually operate. Trump, for instance, assumed his money made him immune, but the system just found other vulnerabilities from his past. He even admitted it took him years to realize that the people he thought were allies in the White House were playing another game entirely. By then, it was just too late. They both learned the hard way that the system is always stronger than any one individual. This brings us to the professor's most provocative claim, one that directly challenges a core belief of modern democracy. I'm going to repeat that because it's a direct quote from the source. The belief that power emanates from the people is a foolish belief. He argues this is a romantic notion and that history and the facts simply do not support it. The theory supports this claim by pointing to major historical events. The French Revolution, it was funded and organized by the wealthy merchant class, not a spontaneous mob. The Syrian insurgency, armed and trained by foreign powers. Ukraine's Maidan Revolution, the source alleges it was a CIA-backed operation. The point is, these weren't spontaneous popular uprisings, they were orchestrated by organized, well-funded groups. A domestic example from Brazil makes this point crystal clear. In a national plebiscite on gun laws, nearly 64% of the population voted against a disarmament statute. The result? The system simply ignored the vote and proceeded anyway. The will of the people was irrelevant. So if power doesn't come from the people, where is it heading in our modern technological age? The theory's conclusion is, well, It's pretty chilling.
The theory posits that technology, rather than liberating people, is creating the ultimate system of control. It works in steps. First, total surveillance through cameras and online monitoring. Second, the shift to a central bank digital currency, eliminating physical cash. This leads to the final step, absolute control, where the system can financially turn off any individual or group that steps out of line.
Just think about it. Without physical cash, how do you fund a protest movement? With surveillance everywhere, how do you organize without being detected? The argument is that technology makes the subterranean power system more efficient and more difficult to challenge than ever before. And this leaves us with a final, unsettling thought. As the tools of control become more and more sophisticated, does the subterranean game simply become the only game in town? According to this theory, the answer is a sobering yes. Definitely something to think about.